Hello, welcome to the Redmen TV. It's Redmen Radio. Actually, it's the calm before the storm. We've got loads of news to talk about. We're going to talk transfers. We're going to talk Madrid. Of course, we've got your questions. But before all of that, I'm joined by Ross Chanley, by one Bailey Shaw, and by Ben Kelly. And the kick-off question comes from @Noodlehouse Alex, which is an absolute belter of a question. I've really enjoyed doing this question. If each of the top 7 teams were a crisp, which would they be and why? So we'll come to you first on this one, Ross.
Right, bear with me because I looked at this question about 2 minutes before we came down. So I've gone City first of all. I've gone Marks and Spencer's, I don't know, jalapeno chili and truffle oil or some shit because, you know, well-funded, posh thing for City. Liverpool,
not many people buy them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, not many people can afford to go to Marks and Spencer's. They just don't go. Liverpool steak cut McCoy's. I thought a solid choice of flavour. Nice rigid base, built properly. Chelsea Pom Bears, just because kids like them, no one else buys them. I had to be a bit careful with that one. Spurs are Watsits because they just flake and crumble at the last minute, as do Watsits. Arsenal are hula hoops because, you know, nice on the outside but hollow in the centre. Nice. United are quick save, no frills because I fucking hate them. And Wolves are Frazzles. You know, nice bit of flavour. You have them every now and then, but we can take them or leave them.
I like that. I like the way you've built it up as well. So let's go Bailey next.
I went for original Pringles as City because they look nice. You know, everyone likes a Pringle, but the thing with Pringles is it's actually statistically the worst crisp for you. So it looks good on the outside, full of shit on the inside, which is basically Manchester City. I've gone flame grilled steak for McCoy's for Liverpool. Same thing as you. Just a really elite crisp, hot, spicy. You know, they just give pack a solid punch. Chelsea, I've gone lightly salted kettle chips because they're a bit Tory and a bit boring. That's Chelsea summed up. Spurs, I've gone for Sunbites because
Sunbites.
They're a bit
they're crisps. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. They're modern day crisps. They're popular. They're very light, as Spurs team. Starting 11 is very light. Arsenal, I've gone chipsticks. Taste pretty good, but so frail. No, they just absolutely crumble apart in your hands. That is Arsenal to a T. United are scampi flavoured fries because they are a team or crisp that would sit in the back of your nan's cupboard forever. No one would ever pick them because nobody wants them anymore. They're a niche crisp for somebody who likes scampi, which is not many people these days. And last is
these days.
Yeah. And last is Walker's Bugles. You know, the little for Wolves, the little cone ones because they're new, you know, the hottest thing on the market at the minute. They look, taste nice, a bit underrated for a Walker's crisp, and I think that's about bang on for Wolves.
I love this
I don't think I can match any of them. Mine's built mainly on my opinion. So, I mean, again, I've gone with a similar idea to you for City. I've gone with just plain, not cheese and onion, plain ready salted crisp because obviously they are quite popular. You know, people like them, but at the end of the day, they've no real personality. So, you know, I feel like that's the case. Liverpool, I've just gone with my favourite crisp, which is cheese and onion Walkers, because they're my favourite football team. And I felt like that married up quite nicely. Chelsea, I've gone with Monster Munch because Monster Munch because they're just a bit of a mess.
Okay.
The Monster Munch just make a mess, and Chelsea are a bit of a mess at the moment. Spurs, I've gone with an opposite approach to you. I've gone with off-brand Doritos because, like, they don't require a lot of investment, but they do a good job. You know, I think, you know, they do a job.
I like that.
Good.
I think that's them. Arsenal, same idea. I've gone with Skips because they just like fade away. They don't last very long. United, mini cheddars because I just reckon they're a bit shit. They get stuck in your teeth and all that. You know, just not a bit. End up talking a lot, and I don't like mini cheddars. And Wolves are Quavers because I think Wolves are underrated, and I think Quavers are underrated as a crisp.
So I've gone for 2 of the same as yours for completely different reasons, and I don't think anybody else have gone the same as. City for me, a jalapeno and cheese Max Strong, which are the new kids on the block, and they're absolutely fucking killing it. I don't even think they do them in small packets. You know what I mean? And that's sort of representative of the fact that City aren't doing things the normal way. They're just going big, spending £1 billion, like the advertising budget probably for Max Strong, and to be fair, they're really tasty crisps, and Man City's football is really, really good as well. Liverpool are the old school, the best crisp that's ever existed. Cheese and onion walkers. I think it's the UK's favourite crisp for a reason. Just like Liverpool, it's got history, it's got tradition, it's changed kits as well. You know, back in the day when I was growing up, it started off at a green packet and then went to blue. Liverpool changed from a blue kit to a red kit, obviously late 1800s. I think there's a little bit of symmetry along there as well. Chelsea are Doritos cheese, because they came in the sort of 90s, big on the advertising budget, or early noughties, something like that, took over the crisp game proper hard, and now I think they're falling behind the Max Strong and all that type of stuff. Tottenham Hotspur are Salt and Shake, the traditional, they've been here a long time, but they're never winning any awards, much like Tottenham Hotspur. I fucking hope.
And probably
in like a week's time.
Probably the only crisp that's in a white packet as well.
It's true. And Arsenal, quavers or skips. Anything that just melts in your mouth, a little bit flaky, and you know, you put it in there and it just disappears, much like Arsenal. Manchester United, the Thai sweet chili, they're a good strong crisp. They've been around fairly recently, but they've established themselves much like Manchester United in the Premier League era. Came in, won all the plaudits, but right now, because of the level of Max Strong crisps coming in there, the jalapeno and cheese and stuff, no one's going for them. And Wolves are Batata Frita by Barossa, which is just a Portuguese crisp that I googled, to be perfectly honest with you.
El Pringo.
So there you go. I think we've pretty much nailed that.
Great question.
It was a great question. We spent far too much time on it, so we will get into some of the news and stuff in brief. First and foremost, Liverpool's goalkeeper, Madly, Karius, is expected to remain at Besiktas next season. I think that if all parties are happy and satisfied, I will continue. My contract with Besiktas continues. Ben, asked?
Not really, no. I mean, look, I do feel for Loris Karius. I mean, obviously, if we all put aside our personal trauma when it comes to Kiev last year, you know, and just try and consider for a moment how mentally challenging of an event that must have been for him. You know, he's gone away to Besiktas. He's put in some good performances, but he has had problems there as well. You know, he's had problems getting paid. He's had problems with the manager. You know, I think the manager at one point said that he'd rather put a 40-year-old reserve goalie in goal. So, you know, he's made a couple of errors there and paid for it. He's been up and down with the fans. So it must have been a really mentally challenging 12 months for him. But at the end of the day, we've got Alisson, and when you've got a world-class goalie, you're never going to go back. So he's just never going to play for Liverpool again.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I think, you know, personally, I know Loris Karius probably cost us a Champions League final last season. I was only talking about it the other day, actually. I really respect the fact still that he came over to the fans at the end of the game and did put his hands up, and I think he knows that he made the mistake, and, you know, modern footballers sometimes will just hide. Loris Karius didn't do that. It was his performances in pre-season that really made me think that this lad's not going to make it. If he goes on and has a decent career, I wish him well, to be perfectly honest with you, because lesser people would have stood up to that. I was talking to somebody as well yesterday who said they were in a lift and they were watching him actually look down at some of the stuff after one of those pre-season friendlies on Twitter, and they were in a lift with him and he was just looking at it going, what the fuck am I doing, like, you know what I mean? And you forget that sometimes I think that there is a person behind that football player. I think we've probably spent enough time on Loris Karius, considering he's never going to play for Liverpool Football Club again. So let's move on to the next one then, Bailey. Liverpool have no interest in the Ligt transfer. Now it looks like anyway that he's lined up to go to Barcelona. I think everybody's a little bit gutted that Liverpool aren't in for him, but Joe Gomez, can he step up?
Yeah, definitely. Ligt's always been one of those proper luxury sort of transfers, and I think we'll get onto that in a minute, but like with the supposed budget that we've been proposed, Ligt's proper dreamland for me. And I think when you look at 22 goals conceded, wasn't it, in the Premier League this season? Best sort of defensive record in the Premier League. If you're going to spend upwards of 60-70 million pounds, do you want to buy another centre half? And it's that whole, I'm like all on board like with the entire sort of, we could have the best centre back partnership for the next 5 to 10 years because of how young Ligt is and how good Van Dijk is currently. But if you think about what we really need to address, that much money on a centre half is not a necessity. So I think that I can make my peace with it. It was one of those things that I wasn't fakired. You know, I wasn't sort of fully on board. I'd already committed. I'd already bought a shirt effectively. I think that this is one that I can let go, and I think it makes sense. I think that Barcelona got a huge relationship with Dutch players, with Johan Cruyff, with Ajax. They've got a lot of history there. So I genuinely think that it's a case of, I'm just going through looking at stuff for the story of the season that size building at the minute. It's mad how infatuated we were with Joe Gomez at the start of the season, and because it's so far removed from that point, we forget how brilliant he was. And I think we are only sort of a pre-season and a few first start games for Joe Gomez back in that centre-half position of saying, yeah, why did we ever consider replacing you?
That's it, isn't it? I think, listen, I'm surprised, Ross, that Joel Matip was able to step up as much as he did. Right now, I'm not even sure Joe Gomez gets back into the side, to be honest, because I was really happy with the way that Joel Matip's been playing the last few weeks.
I think he might probably change the whole perception of what the targets were in the summer. Over a sustained period of good performances surprised me. I think, like, you're right there, people write off Joe Gomez, and I was one of the people that wrote off Joel Matip. He's been around for 2.5, nearly 3 seasons, so he hasn't hit any form at all, and he's just come in, and considering the teams we were playing, the amount of football he was playing, you always worry with Joel Matip, was it he'll be injured in a minute, and he'll be out for 3 more weeks, and then Lovren comes in and you rotate them. But even when Lovren stepped in for Porto, I thought Lovren was sound. Bailey's right, why would you go and spend 65 million on a centre half when that's pretty much sound on midfield sorted, and all we need is backup for our forwards. It seems that you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. I get going for him, because I think you're right, he's a brilliant centre half, and you could build a bigger future with him in the long run. If Joe Gomez gets injured again, but I don't think the last injury was his fault. I think he's getting tired with that as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Okay, well, we'll move on then. Liverpool have placed a £25 million price tag on Harry Wilson, Ben. It does, there's supposed to be a lot of Premier League clubs interested in him. You can understand why. I'd be really surprised if Klopp didn't take a look at him in pre-season.
Definitely. Look, you can't ignore the season he's just had for Derby. Obviously, they've got one more huge game to go on Monday where they could get promoted. And I think if they can do that, that is a massive thing for him in his career. If he can be part of a team that gets promotion to the Premier League, and not only that, but play a key part in that as well. He scored some big goals for them this season, including a penalty in the second leg of the playoff semi-finals against Leeds. So that does wonders for his confidence and his all-round, just to have that experience, to come up and be part of that. I think Klopp's got to look at him. I think I want to keep hold of him, but I want to loan him out again to a Premier League side. So I've said on Development Watch that is coming out this week, I want him to go back. I want Derby to come up so we can send him back to there, and then he can continue that journey. Hopefully they keep the same crux of players at the squad. They've got some really talented young players, Mason Mount, Jack Marriott, players like that, and they're under a manager in Frank Lampard who they clearly all have a good working relationship with. So hopefully they can. That's
if Frank Lampard stays. If rumours are to be
believed. That is something to consider, I suppose. But obviously, right now you've got to take it as he is the Derby manager. He might want to continue, and build upon that next season. I think for us, I think the best thing that we can do is loan him out to a Premier League side for one more season. See how he goes and make a decision in 2020.
Why do you think there's been a £25 million price tag put on him? Is that just
because I think that's how much. I think if they were to sell, if somebody comes in and pays 25 million, then maybe Liverpool will look to sell, because at the end of the day, not only we've talked a lot about loaning players to develop them, but also loaning players to basically build up a price tag on our part. If you think about how much the academy, I remember Andy Kelly saying this last year on the podcast we did, if you consider how much an academy per year costs to run, if you sell Harry Wilson an academy product for 25 million quid, you've paid for the academy for God knows how many years there. And the club are looking at it from a business perspective as well. Not only it's a selfish way of looking at things, but football is a business these days. Sometimes when we loan players out, it's not for their own good, it's for our own good. So they may be looking at 25 million for Wilson and thinking, well, if somebody pays that, we'll just take him and we'll take the profit.
It's 25 million cheap.
I think that's a good price for him. I think considering that he's never played Premier League football, 25 million.
I know, but you take into account of what 25 million, what he's worth to a potential club that's trying to battle relegation or survival or promotion. It's probably a lot more than that, though, isn't it?
So you're saying it's not cheap?
I think 25 million. I think that's probably not enough. There's an attacking player who scores goals. The value behind that for those clubs.
But we don't know at the moment whether he can do it in the Premier League. I think that's the thing. Obviously he's helped the team potentially get into the Premier League. He can do it in the Championship. He's definitely Championship level. But if he goes to Brighton, who are battled relegation this season, is there any guarantee that he can replicate that there? We just don't know. It's an unknown quantity. Well, even then, yeah. So
I don't. £25 million for a fella who hasn't played in the Premier League, who hasn't played in the top division. Football. I think that's crazy money.
I suppose the one thing you could say is, how many goals did he score from a free kick, Ben? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know, but he scored. It felt like every time I was opening Twitter, he was putting
must be
another
like
on top bins.
7, 8, something like that. And how different does a free kick change depending on what part of the pitch you play? Like, I think that has so much value, having that.
Goalkeepers are better though. You know what I mean? And players in the wall might be better. I'm not saying that that's a deciding factor in any of this, but it is interesting. Liverpool, we know, I imagine, would put a buyback fee on it anyway, or buyback percentage, or whatever it is that we do.
Michael knows what he's doing, doesn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and £25 million. I get why the academy has to make itself sort of self-fulfilling almost and pay for itself, and of course you've got to do that. For too long Liverpool have had lads just go out for £1 million when they've pumped in millions and millions to train these lads up from 10, 11 years old for sometimes, so it's a bit mad. And I'd like to see Harry Wilson given a chance, and I think if there is one manager in world football or one of the managers in world football, Jurgen Klopp will want to have a look at him. And I think it's bullshit, quite honestly, 25 million, because I don't think that Jurgen Klopp will sell him without seeing how much he's improved from last year. Yeah. Because Liverpool will have had scouts and stuff like that, but Jurgen Klopp will want to watch him himself, and he might decide at the end of pre-season that 25 million's fine. He hasn't improved that much. We can almost ride the crest of a wave of his form for Derby last season, but I don't think Jurgen Klopp sells a player without seeing how good he is with his own two eyes.
Yeah, and just one more thing, I suppose. This time last year when we did loan him out to Derby, we gave him a long-term contract, so there's clearly interest from the club to keep him on our books, and the fact that he signed it and was happy to take that extra loan. I think a lot of fans, including myself last season, didn't want him to go out last season, but the fact that he was willing to take that extra loan to continue his development, I think says that he's hungry to play for Liverpool, and he's desperate to go out and prove himself. I think it's Liverpool in particular that he wants to play for, so I think it's partly on him as well.
It also comes out to that business side. He said that Liverpool can offer him a contract to protect his fee.
Yeah.
But absolutely. But Harry Wilson does want to play for Liverpool. I mean, he absolutely does. And you know, if he believes he's good enough to play for Liverpool, he'll fight for that. He'll try and show Jurgen Klopp, and he'll expect the opportunity to show Jurgen Klopp, I think, as well. Which is why I think, you know, slapping a £25 million price tag on him before the season's even finished seems a little bit early for me. So on to some of the ticket stuff. I think, you know, obviously a lot's been made of Madrid's ticket prices and all that type of stuff for the Champions League final. Tottenham Hotspur have actually banned 3 season ticket holders for listing final tickets on a secondary website, a reselling site. Liverpool are looking to do exactly the same. This can only be a good thing, can't it, really, Ross?
Absolutely. I was made up when I read this before. You know, there's so many fans that don't have the chance to go to these finals that would love to go and would do, you know, move heaven and earth to go. But there's a amount of fans that complain that we get fingered by corporate for not being able to take tickets, and these people here that have got the opportunity to go to these games are just using it to make money. I think it's disgusting, and for the clubs to actually recognise that I'm making examples out of them is a signal to whoever else in future to don't do it, and for other clubs to say, listen, this is the standard that we're setting now, go and follow suit, because I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody knows how difficult it is to get Champions League final tickets and stuff for Liverpool, and you know, I'm not going to go into the intricacies of how you get credits and the ballot system and all that, because quite frankly, I don't really understand it all. And I know how it is for us, and I know how difficult it is for us. And Ben, you buy tickets all the time, so you'll know exactly the same. But then everybody that I've spoken to comes at it from a different direction, which says to me that if you're sat there and try and put yourself in the club's position, and I'm not backing the club on this, but you've got a million different problems to fix. It's not just one or two. You might say something completely different to me. You know, I might say something completely different to you, and everybody else has got a different sort of way that they're coming at it, and it just seems
it sounds like an
so
impossible job, doesn't it, from the club's perspective to keep it as fair as possible. I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say, having got a ticket, that I do think the ballot was quite fair, because it's very difficult to get a ticket to go away in Europe. So, and you've got to somehow. So again, I've been to all 6 home games in the Champions League this season. For me, it is fair to give those people who've been to all those games a shot at a ticket in the final, even though they haven't been away. I think that's the way it is, because it is so difficult to get on that ladder if you're not already on it, like myself. So I understand it, but it's funny because the reselling stuff. I was asked by a guy in work who doesn't really follow the football, because I was saying I've got a ticket, and he was like, you know, they are going for a lot of money, and I was like, I just couldn't put a price on it. It's just one of them things. I think if you are a true football fan, you understand that sentence in general. You know, if you think about your ticket for Wolves on the last day, even though we went into that day, obviously underdogs to you couldn't put a price on that at all. If you're a Spurs fan, it's the first Champions League ever. But some people just are greedy, and some people, you know, and that's the way it is. I mean, before I got my ticket through the ballot, I was quoted €4,500 for a ticket in the Liverpool end, and it just goes up and up and
But then
up.
I can sit here and tell you, Ben, that I've been to PSG, I've been to Belgrade, I've been to Bayern Munich, and I've been to all the Champions League home games, and I've been to Barcelona, and I had the same chance of getting a ticket as you.
Yeah.
So, where's that fair?
Yeah, like Lauren's dad, for example, she's been a season ticket holder for like 35 years, was like 22,000 or something in the list. And then you look at that, and I get your point. It's like there's no, when there's that many fans, how do you divvy it up evenly? But I think the biggest thing there is these are 3 season ticket Spurs fans. It's 3 that have gone into this new stadium, this new era of Tottenham's sort of renaissance, and they're like you said, their first Champions League final they've ever been in, and their first thought is to flog it. And it's like, I don't get that. And that's, I think, where the club can put their foot down. It's like they know exactly who's bought a ticket in their stadium, and they say, well, if you don't value what this club has done for you as a fan, getting you in the position to go and watch that, you've had the luck to go and actually get a ticket in the ballot, and then you're selling it. Like that's the right stance to have to say that's not what this club's about. Of
course it is, but then you got the flip side of that, and right, and here's I'm going to play devil's advocate here. This may be not something that I truly understand, but for example, I know people that put their name in the ballot with absolutely no intention of going to the final, right. But they put their name in the ballot because they had mates who are also season ticket holders who also go away from home. That increases the chances because they will sell them to them at face value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is that fair or is that not fair? So here's the thing.
Yeah.
These are the issues that the club have to say, because if I put a ticket in and I can't go, but I get one in the ballot and then give it to Paul, is that fair or not fair? Paul still bins them all, but is it not fair because I've got no intention? I'm not saying I'd sell it for over face value.
Ethically or morally, it's wrong, isn't it? Because he's not given a fair chance to everyone else. But like again, if Paul's missed out on that ballot and he's been to all the games, then I don't think you could probably argue with doing that. I think there's a huge difference between doing that and giving someone for face value who's been to all those games, than to getting your ticket and flogging it and then exploiting someone else and get as much money as you can.
I think everybody knows if you sell a football ticket for over face value, you're a prick.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that's not the issue for me. It's the other stuff that. It's that sort of the grey area, isn't it? Between,
or even to be fair, like I don't know if it's the same with the Europa League final. I think Baz was saying earlier, like only 2,000 Arsenal fans bought a ticket for the Europa League final.
Less for Chelsea.
Unless for Chelsea, I think that also is a factor. The fact that the Madrid airport was sold out like already. Like if that before the ballot had come out, and then you're like, well, I can't feasibly get there. I can't fly there. I haven't got the money, the funds that it's now going to cost me on top of that to then travel to the place. Is that person's fault that then wants to flog it? I think there are a lot of different factors in there, and it's right. It's one of those things that
the lads who go away though, lads who go away all the time have booked their tickets before they get one in the ballot. That's just the way that it works. Mm-hmm. That's what they do because they know that that's what you've got to do. And I know lads that have booked tickets for 300 quid months and months and months ago because they'd rather lose the 300 quid. Yeah. Than spend $1,500 trying to get there when you get. But
not everybody has. Not everybody has that type of money to lose 300 quid.
Of course they don't.
So that's the reason that I ended up after getting a ticket. I then had to scramble around and sort transfer because I couldn't afford to just go to Madrid for a weekend on the off chance that I get a ticket and watch it in a bar when I could watch it in a bar in Liverpool and it would cost me £300 less. I think it's not my fault that I can't get tickets for aways. So then surely I'm entitled to an opportunity for a final ticket. It's the debate you could have all day. But like I physically, if I could have a ticket for away, then I would go. I'd pay.
From my point of view, right? Why should I, who've been to 4 or 5 away games, have exactly the same chance of a final ticket as you?
Well, it depends. So, are you getting tickets through other people?
Or every single away game I've been to this season, the clubs knows I'm going to because my name's been on the ticket.
But it does. You were guaranteed a ticket on your account if you'd been to 7 games. So,
yeah, but I'm in the same boat as you, whereby I can't get the away ticket, so I buy them off other people,
right, okay, yeah.
and they tell the club who's using their ticket.
Right, okay.
But they get
so that's wrong then. So they should know.
It.
So you should get the credit for that then. So that's
again, this is the issue.
Yeah.
But then should the person who's buying it lose the credits?
Well, because if they're buying, they should be buying one.
But this is the issue.
Yeah.
Too much of a mess.
This is the problem that they've got. And
We've got too many fans, Chris. That's what it is.
Let's just not go.
No, I think it's bullshit. It pisses people off all over the place. And the problem is right now is that there's these wars on Twitter and social media and about all of this stuff, because we're having a conversation because we're in the same place as each other, and it gets pretty heated at times. But when it happens over on social media, I've seen lads absolutely going off at other lads who've managed to be lucky and get a final ticket because they haven't been able to get one and stuff, and they're in the same boat. I
saw someone today who commented on, who spoke to someone who hadn't been to any games in the Champions League and they got a ticket for the final. I don't know how they've got it or how they've done it, but that's an issue as well. For someone who's been to all home games as well.
This is the thing, something needs to be done by a much cleverer person than me.
Yeah.
That's the thing anyway. Listen, we've probably talked way too long on all this type of stuff anyway. As you can probably tell by the caps or the let's go with gamut of caps on the table, or myriad of caps on the table, something like that. We are sponsored as always by Tokyo Time. Absolutely superb caps. They've got some new designs out as well. I've got a Redmen one as well. We'll be getting that one in soon. This is one of my personal favourites. Love this one as well, the blue one here. If you do like your caps, these are absolutely top quality. You can see they're all embroidered on the sides, nice embroidered badges. The work inside's absolutely superb. The stitching's incredible. Really good value for money. Really strong supporters of Redmen TV. They've enabled us to keep the show going, which has been absolutely fantastic. And there are so many caps. Some of the new ones are absolutely belter. Maybe we could put a little photo of the new one with the really big design coming up. And if you want to get 20% off, just follow the bit.ly. It's bit.ly/Tokyo Time _Redmen TV. And there is a discount code, which is just Redmen20. That will get you 20% off some of the best caps around. Big thank you to Tokyo Time. Big thank you to Paul for supporting the show for as long as he has done. Small independent business that makes absolutely belter caps, as you can see by the fact that Bailey wears one all the time.
Very durable caps.
Very durable. I mean, they are absolutely scintillating. I absolutely love them. So we will talk transfers then. Let's start with you, Bailey. Actually, first of all, you can show off the cap just by talking, and secondly, you put the agenda together, so you're probably in a good place to talk about this. There are reports suggesting that Liverpool will only be spending sparingly this summer. It feels too early to talk about transfers, but there's an appetite for it. Do you believe those reports?
I am inclined to believe it this time. I think there's a lot of fans that say Klopp always says we're not going to buy so and so, we're not interested in so and so. The squad's as good as it is, and then he goes out and buys Van Dijk and Alisson and Fabinho like he did last season.
Why do you think he does that?
It's just I don't think he's a guy that he's going to give hints anywhere. Why you don't think it's in his best interest to tell people who he's going for. I think the closer you can hold the cards to your chest, the best in from a business perspective and from a manager's perspective. I think
there's a little matter of a Champions League final that he probably needs to keep the players G'd up for as well, to be honest with you.
He hates transfers, doesn't he? And he hates talking about other players when he's going to disregard his own players.
And the biggest flaw is the fact that our window opens 3 weeks before any of the other leagues have closed. This Italian league's still open, the Spanish league has been won, but there's still games. There's games across all these leagues and cup finals still to be played. So a lot of these leagues close 3 weeks after ours closes. So we start everything so early, and silly seasons all like, oh my God, here we go. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to move for the next 3 weeks. It won't be until after the Champions League final anyway that we really see any business done, if any. And I think that that's why with the Ligt stuff I never was really on board. I think that was if we're not going to have another summer like last summer for a while, because I think our squad is so settled. And I think we're going to go down the route of, maybe we get a backup forward, a versatile forward, a guy that can play on the left and maybe in the middle, maybe in the 10 at the same time, maybe, a young backup for the left back. And do you know what? I'm fine with that. This is one of the first times in a long time that I could say I'm really happy with the way the squad is at the minute.
No, I agree with that. I think, first of all, I'll just expand on my earlier point. You'd be absolutely ridiculous to come out and say you're going to get a new centre half when you've got a Champions League final coming up. I mean, that's just going to fuck with Joel Matip and Joe Gomez's head if they're needed. There's an argument to be made to say that, listen, it might spur them on, but one game's not going to change the manager's mind. Is it really? Let's be honest with you. Unless they put in a Cara 2005 type of performance, in which case, actually, maybe I don't need a new centre-half. Generally speaking, Klopp does this every year. It doesn't surprise me that Liverpool's budget is around the 20 to 50 million pound mark. I think with player sales, we could be looking at 100 million invested into that anyway, which then puts you at maybe 2-3 world-class players, maybe 350 million pound signings. Absolutely sound with that. Like Memphis Depay, a guy, Ross, that we've spoken about recently. Liverpool fans are all over it because he's mates with Gini Wijnaldum and all that type of stuff, and obviously if you're mates with someone, you're going to go and play for the same team as them, apparently.
That's how it works. That's definitely how it works. It's quite funny the amount of posts Gini's done. I think he did one with Virgil van Dijk the other day as well. I think we might have spoken this on the Red News last week or the week before of being open to someone like that who's an attack midfielder, quite open. But I think the stuff you just said there about player sales, there's Dom Solanke money to go on top of that, which we haven't really considered.
Bit of Danny Ings money.
Bit of Danny Ings money to come in as well. Karius, if he goes full term, we might lose some if Coutinho moves on because we won't get the add-ons from Barcelona. It gets sold from him. But you have to think of like Chamberlain's coming back. It all depends on Ryan Brewster if he's coming into the fold. Harry Wilson, we already mentioned him before. He already gained 3 players there. We want to develop our bench. We want to look at the bench and think you can change the game. There's 3 people there that can do potentially. Why go and spend big? You finished 1 point behind Manchester City and got to a Champions League final. So how is there much more you need to progress on that? Maybe
if they spend 400 million, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, but you can't compete. You can't just go buying people for the sake of buying them because they want to do. I think you have to concentrate on what you're doing yourselves. I think Bailey's right. I don't think we're far off competing again next season for titles and stuff. I just want us to have a team that's again the bench and a team that we can almost a B team. We can go into the domestic cups without making 11 changes and playing 7 kids and relying on them to get you somewhere in the FA Cup or in the what's the other one? Carabao Cup, yeah, that one, yeah.
Carabao Cup.
It just seems a bit
goal bridges.
Yeah, it just seems a bit. But the drop off's too far, and that, I think go and get some people. I think you're right. 50 to 100 million pound. Maybe 3 decent players, maybe. Fine with that. A goalkeeper, backup goalkeeper, backup left back, and a versatile centre forward. And I don't think that's going big.
No, I think that's right. I think you can bring in maybe 15 million quid for Simon Mignolet, Ben. In which case, is it Kelleher, is it Grabara as a backup keeper, or you bring in someone experienced in maybe backup left back for me. Joe Gomez can probably play right back for you if you need behind Trent Alexander-Arnold. You're going to have Nathaniel Klein. His money's going to be coming into the bank, you'd guess. Midfield, I think stocked. Brewster is a 4th for 3 spaces up top, which I would like 5 for 3 places up top.
I think I suppose I could just echo the words that you two have just said. I think for the first time since maybe in 10 years, it's the first time that I've felt not too bothered about transfers in terms of just being confident in the current squad of players that we have. At the moment as a starting 11, you're hard pressed to find too many players who are going to be an upgrade to get into the starting 11 that are going to fit into the system as well. You can go and pluck out Paulo Dybala maybe, but is he going to work in our team? Probably not. So there are players like that who you can go and find, but it's all about finding what's going to work for us. And at the moment, as I say, I think you'd be hard pressed to find many players that do. So then you're looking at that cut under. You're into a grey area there because it's finding players who are both happy to sit on the bench but not good enough like that. That's where so Xherdan Shaqiri is the perfect example where he's a perfect backup. He's not gonna. He knows that he's not gonna walk into the starting 11, but he is also happy to sit on the bench. You need to find players who've got that attitude and are happy to do a job, a bit part job. A lot of young players. Some will be happy, but I feel like the mentality of a lot of young players these days is that they'd rather be playing somewhere else in the Premier League than be sitting on the bench for 70% of the games at Liverpool. But there'll be some players where enough money is enough to change their minds.
I agree to a point, Ben, but my big thing with this at the moment, and maybe it's something that I've come to realise over the last year or something, I'm not saying I'm right on this by the way, is that you need to be able to offer games to players. And I think I've said a few times now that Liverpool need to go deep in the cup competitions, and I think Ross is right. I think you shouldn't be playing 7 kids in these cup competitions. You're developing your kids should be done somewhere else nowadays. I think that's just the way that it is, unfortunately, unless they're a standout talent like a Brewster or a Keanu Hoover where they're really young and stuff like that. I'd be looking to make sure that, you know, it's not lads to sit on the bench anymore for me. I think that's an old school way of looking at it. It's lads that can come and be a part of it for 5-10 games on the bounce and move on. Riyad Mahrez was brilliant for Manchester City at the start of the season. Bernardo Silva completely had him off, and then he moved into the middle and stuff like that. These are the type of players, and City are a perfect example because they're balancing a squad really, really well. You know, it's not lads who are just sitting behind them waiting. It's lads who are having a tangible impact all throughout the season that Liverpool need. And I think that is a mentality shift, maybe, Bailey, for a player, but also maybe for Liverpool as how we build a squad.
Yeah, and that's 100% the biggest thing for me. Is like you look back to the League Cup, I think our back line was like Mignolet, Moreno,
Klein, Matip, Lovren.
Yeah, and it's like that was and Fabinho's first game in there, and it's like, and everyone's like, okay, we'll give you a pass this season because we are going for the 2 big trophies, and we've got within a point of one and in a final of the other, so you can say it paid off. And the FA Cup was even worse. You know, the amount of, I think there was like 2 first team names in there, and one of which was playing centre half, and it was like, how is that where the level we're at? You know, how's our squad not that bulked out that we can afford to risk some players in there? It was obviously only when we were down in the game that we brought Firmino and Salah on.
But that's because that's that like Rafa's playing in the air or Rodgers playing in the air shite, isn't it? You know what I mean? I think what Klopp's done, and I think he's right to do this, is he's not bulked out the squad like Rafa did with shit players. Yeah. You know, Rafa spent 25 million on Torres and bought 3 million pound players to bulk the squad out. Klopp's just gone, bang, here's my money for my first team, we'll see if we can do with that, and it's done us well, and I think done us incredible. But now he's got to actually think about the entire squad, not that he hasn't been.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I think he's done fantastically last season, prioritising where he's needed to. You look at all the signings he's made, they've all been so important getting us to where we are now, and I think he has to look at this now and say, was it Lloyd Kelly or something that signed the other day?
For Bournemouth and Bristol.
Yeah, and that was like a part you look at and you're like, you would have been a perfect guy to come into this team. And there's that Ziyech, isn't there, who's from Ajax, who's got like a £25 million release clause. There's looking at guys that can do a job and that are affordable. I think there's so many of them out there. Like I say, we can constantly come back to the example of Andy Robertson and saying there are clearly players, young, hungry players in leagues below or in leagues that are less than the Premier League that will bite our hand off to sit on our bench. And I think that's where we've got to look. It'd be really interesting to see Jurgen Klopp not bringing in these sort of super hot talent, even like when we signed some of the earlier names, like they were still middle class to a good talent. I'd like to see him sign players who are unbeknownst to people, you know, guys that are gems in the rough, like Andy Robertson again, just to see, like, because that's what gets me excited. It's seeing that side of Michael Edwards and Jurgen Klopp, that sort of the brain of stuff we don't get to see. Why have we picked him up? What have they seen in him that we haven't seen?
Why does everyone think Andy Robertson's been such a good signing for us?
Because he's developed from a 8 million signing from relegated Hull to probably being the best left back in the world.
How's he done that?
Well, it's under work rate. It's under, you know, and it's under a manager developing a talent that I'm not sure that Andy Robertson was Jurgen Klopp's signing. I think he was presented to him by his scouting team. He decided after seeing enough that he wanted to take a punt on him, and then from there it's down to Jurgen Klopp's coaching and development. And, you know, again, what we've seen from Jurgen Klopp over the years, where he's not been thrown into the first team straight away. He's been given time. You know, he only came into the first team. I mean, I remember watching him after in the Everton Cup game, you know, after Christmas. So that's only really when he started to be a regular in the first team.
Moreno got injured,
because he was given that. Yeah, Moreno got injured, and he was then given that chance, and he took it because some players just. I mean, again, it's I don't know if it's the Scottish mentality, if you like, but, you know, some players just take to it, and they have the desire to go as far as Andy Robertson has, and I think he's been incredible.
Of course he has, but I'll tell you the reason why, and the answer is games.
Right.
Games is the reason why. You know, Moreno was playing really well. I think I'm right in saying Andy Robertson came in for Crystal Palace or something like that. Had one game. I wouldn't say was particularly standout or anything like that.
You could see he had a really good cross on him.
But everything that you've said is right. It enabled him to succeed, his personal life and all that type of stuff, and everything done. Plus he's got the skill set, plus Jurgen Klopp's nurtured him and all that type of stuff. But ultimately you've got to have games in the team to improve. And I think that's the struggle, that's the hard part for Jurgen Klopp at the moment. Because you're bringing a forward how are they going to get 15 games on the bounce without an injury? Yeah. You bring in a midfielder, do we even need one? You bring in defenders, well, where do they fit into the best defence in the country?
But I think if you're second place in the league, you have to say tough, because Manchester City wouldn't be promising Mahrez games, but he came because of the promise. And if we're going to go from Memphis to Pi, it is for a worst case scenario situation. We were very lucky that Mo Salah got injured at the period that he did. That Bobby Firmino only missed a few games here and there. At Mane was just solid through the whole thing. I don't know if we're going to get that lucky again. And that's the point. If we're going for it again next season, we can't put all our chips down on that front three being stellar again. We've been looking
for 2 seasons now.
Exactly.
Simon Brundish says this very often. He's a great follower on Twitter, someone I really respect as well. He's a sports scientist. He says the most underrated attribute in a footballer, and the stat that we never talk about enough, is games available for. He said it's the most important one when it comes to football, and Bobby Firmino, Sadio Mane, Mo Salah are available for a lot of games of football. Fortunately, just like Virgil van Dijk, just like Andrew Robertson, these are like, if he notices it, I'm damn sure that our coaches notice this type of thing as well, because why would you sign someone who's not going to be available 50% of the time?
Nabil Fekir.
And even have to just look like Manchester United, like Lukaku, Sanchez, Rashford, all of that, and Lingard. Those 4 players, I'm sure all of those, they've all been out for sustained periods of time in that season. It's like, well, if you can't have a cohesive attack, where are you? And I think that's how we've been so lucky in the sense, like Ben said, in the last 2 years to get there.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. What if it's not luck?
Okay.
These lads have all been signed, and these lads all happen to be available for, I would say, 95% of the games.
Yeah. It's a worthy shout.
For the domestic cups, though, I think you have to take in consideration as well. Obviously, the transition period that we're in, like you said before, you can't just go and buy shit players for that sake. I think that's where we're at now, to go and do that. But also taking in consideration who we've played in these cups in the early stages.
Chelsea and Wolves.
Wolves, Leicester and Chelsea last season as well, maybe. We can't expect people to go and do that. Wolves played the first team, we went down to go and see them. Very good side, because they've got nothing else to fight for at that stage. We were going for a title.
God, they nearly made it to the final.
Yeah, they nearly made it to the final. Chelsea and the other one, they got to the final and they lost. That's just the way it is. And they look at City, who got to all the finals.
And the run they had
to, and whoever, Dagenham and Redbridge, whoever else that they played. That's just the way it goes sometimes.
No, it is. It's unfortunate. So we kind of that was really interesting. That, to be fair, Ross, how crucial is it to get the balance of these incomings and outgoings just right? I think we've kind of probably talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's been nailed, to be fair. It's still surprising about what Michael Edwards can do in a transfer room with someone and come out and get so much money. Dom Solanke was another massive one. We knew he spoke about Harry Wilson there. Dom Solanke didn't really prove himself at an elite level and sold him for £20 million. I'm fine with that. I mean, and the club's in a good position now. Probably the best it has been in a long time. Certainly, obviously since Higgs and Gillette have been really solid as a business and as a business model. Add to that another good run in the Champions League, that's more money. Second in the Premier League, that's even more money. Sales on top of that's fine. I think what I don't want to do is look at like 4 or 5 people where I can go get rid of, and then you cut your nose off to spite your face. So Adam Lallana, for example, I could quite happily get rid of him, but there's no need to get rid of him. If you're happy to have someone of his standard who can play the 2-3 games, he's someone great to have in cup games. He knows where he's at now. He knows his level. He knows he's not getting that midfield, but you can go and be like a leader among kids.
Yeah, but I think one of the other things is, I think Dejan Lovren spoke about it last week, Bailey, where someone asked him, didn't they, why he was so excited towards the end of the Barcelona game and why he was so involved in the celebrations. Did everybody see all this?
Yeah.
And he basically stood there in the interview, and he said, and the question was along the lines of, listen, you were a part of this last season at Roma, but now you're not. And he kind of went, but we're a team.
Yeah.
I had the support from them last season.
It's my turn.
And this season, it's my turn to be that support for the rest of the team. Yeah. And it's that you need to bottle as Jurgen Klopp, and it's something that he's so good at, is cultivating that atmosphere around the club where everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, everybody's talking and pulling in the same direction, aren't they? And that, for me, is the balance of ingoings and outgoings, and that's where the homework really needs to be done.
Yeah, and completely right. That's what I was sort of trying to get at with my last point about, I don't care about Marquis, I don't care about any of this stuff. If whoever he brings in, I know he's met with this guy, he sat down with him like he did with Virgil van Dijk.
In Blackpool, stick a rock, chippy.
Exactly. And just felt him out and said, this is my ethos, this is what Liverpool are about, are you in? And then whoever he brings in from that point, that the guy is 100% from that point committed to Liverpool. And I think that that's one thing that I've not seen for a long time as well, is just the cohesiveness of the team. Just it was so hard for us to pick a player of the season this year when we did the podcast, because every single player pulled their weight, whether they were reserve, whether they were substitute, whether they were first team, all of them pulled their weight and had a contribution to where we were this season. I think that's so hard to so hard to take away from, and also to add to. You need people to come in and sort of you show them what we've built here and say, no matter whether you're playing games or not, well, this is a unit, you know, and you will have your time, whether it's 1 or 2 games, like Divock Origi did, like Sturridge has done, where we need you. Even Lallana, you know, those games against Fulham and Burnley, it was brilliant, and such a key influence. And I think that's such a strong position to have, you know, where some people have, you know, huge wage bills, you know, the cup competitions we're in. We are very unique in the sense we are already there in terms of the cohesiveness of our squad. I can't name another team in the league that has got a cohesive, work for each other sort of atmosphere like Liverpool has. No,
and I think the other part of that, Ben, is the fact that, you know, there's a cohesiveness not only with the team on there but also with the fans, and I think we saw that at the end against Barcelona. And one of the points that Bailey very slightly touched on, or maybe I just pulled a thread from it, as it were. Something that I know from the NFL is that I was listening to a podcast about a year or so ago now with a scout. And one of the things that they do, and it got me thinking, it's got to happen in football. As soon as I was listening to this podcast, I was like, this has to happen. Scouts will go and speak to the family, obviously. They'll go and speak to the old high school coaches. They'll go and speak to the old college coaches. They'll go and speak to people who've worked with him in his part-time job. And they will do all of this without the player knowing. I wonder whether Michael Edwards does this, because he gives you an overview of what type of a person he is when the spotlight's not on him. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can be someone in front of your coach or your boss or something like that, but then you'll go and speak to old mates and all this type of stuff. And I wonder whether there's that level of depth when we're scouting players.
Yeah, I wonder how far back he goes on their Instagrams and stalking and tweets. You know what I mean? I mean it's possible. I mean, I suppose. It's no coincidence at this point, the deals that Michael Edwards is pulling out the bag. So you feel like there must be something extra that he's doing. Sauce. You know, what is the secret to his success? Yeah, you know, and if maybe that is he's just happens to have the best scouting network in the world underneath him. You know, maybe that is all it is, but maybe he is doing something extra, and that could be what it is. Either way, I think he deserves a whole lot of praise. And you know, we've talked about transfers so far. It's the way that they do it. So above board.
Oh, hello.
No.
You got a short memory?
No, sorry. I mean, it's the way they do it, kind of without it out the eye of the media, almost. So if you think about Fabinho, that's been the main example. You know, it was just done. It wouldn't surprise me if there's one done now, and you know we're waiting
1st of July. Bang, go.
And that's it. You know what I mean? It's the way, that is what I think is, other than the Virgil thing, obviously, that is what I think is most impressive. There's almost an air of professionalism where you're not, most of the time, you're not like courting players, you're not doing all that. It's just, you speak, even with the Fekir stuff, the majority of the way we carried out that process seemed to be absolutely perfect up until we seemed to make the decision to pull the plug, and even then that takes balls to take that away when you decide that something's not quite right. So I think the way we conduct ourselves, not only with incomings, but as we've mentioned already, with outgoings like Dom Solanke, getting the price for him, the Coutinho stuff. There's supposed to be this like tax for Barcelona if they want to take another one of our players over the next couple of years, stuff like that.
He's definitely Eddie Howe nudes, isn't he?
Yeah,
so he's leveraging
that. I just think he just gets it, and I think it's a strange thing to say, but like I feel like he's where we're all sort of scrambling and trying to fix problems of last season. Michael Edwards and Jurgen Klopp are 2 seasons ahead. He as we've seen every season, there's a new evolution where it was Ox in the 10 last season and it was fullbacks this season. What could it be next season? I think these guys know that, and they're like, right, well, I want these 2 guys, because I think that after watching them last year, they can make the step up to what we could achieve next season. And I think that's the mark of a great sort of man in his position. Like you look at Ed Woodward, a guy that all the United fans will sit there and scream, we need Daniel James because he worked for the club. He's the same place as Ollie. He's going to come up at the same. Ollie's inexperienced. Daniel James is inexperienced in the Premier League. That's what the fans want. But then you'll have Ed Woodward will be like, Gareth Bale. This is the guy that like he's done with Lukaku, like he's done with Pogba, and like I think that's how we've gotten very lucky with Michael Edwards. He's not only fantastic at not blowing his load on players unnecessarily, he also, but you're right, I think there must be a case of he must understand the players he's scouting at such a strange
He
level.
takes out the marketing aspect, doesn't
the
he?
structure of the club is what enables Michael Edwards to go about and do his business.
Same page, aren't they?
You know, the fact is, he's got one job. You know, Ed Woodward is is the commercial director, he's the director of football, he's all of those things rolled in one. Just get fucking experts. If you would be an expert, surround yourself with experts. That's an old Hindu fucking proverb or whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Confucius say.
Listen, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. I think that's what Liverpool have done really well. They've structured it in such a way that Michael Edwards is good at his job and just does his job, and then Peter Moore goes out and does the commercial deals and all that type of stuff, and it's absolutely fucking superb. So we'll move on then. Before we do, got a little plug for the MXP podcast. It's Machin Pajak. He isn't here this week. We've got an incredible special lined up for you. Ooh. I will let you know right now. The person that we've got on the MXP podcast this week is Mark Goldbridge. Friday, 5 p.m. Machin Pajak, YouTube. Get subscribed. Machin, Goldbridge, fire. That simple. That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. That was really good. Can you just do that throughout all the tense? Anytime it gets a little bit tense here, just start doing that for me.
It's part of your ASMR thing you do after work.
It's part of the tuberculosis I think I got in the last 4 days.
So let's talk about Madrid anyway. Only 10 days. 10?
Yeah.
10.
11. 21st.
10 sleeps.
Because there's a 31st of May. So 11.
Oh,
sorry.
What? I was asked a question. I answered.
Dickhead. Wow. Rosh, does it feel real?
I haven't got there yet. No, I'm still trying to get over the season. I think all of us, fuck knows how the players feel, having a mental break from football. Just give me 5 minutes. That's all I want.
Give me a breather.
Yeah, I still don't feel like I've had it. No, it all seems that I feel a bit bizarre. The Barcelona thing was just something out of this world. I think, and even the day of the Wolves game, I was still watching the highlights of going, this hasn't happened. To be in another Champions League final has blown my mind. You know, we had Istanbul and Athens was a very long time ago. And last season was great, but I felt we overachieved getting there last season. And for the form that we had in the group stages, losing 3 games away, should we be in the Champions League final? No. Even now, 3 goals behind Barcelona, no chance. And now I have not had time to process it still. I get it. I know it's a thing.
It's definitely happening.
But I've not had a chance to think about it. I don't think it won't be until probably the week or when we start doing some build-up content in here, I'll be able to get my head around it. But as far as now, I'm still calming down from.
It's been such an incredible season, hasn't it, Ben? I think, the way that the Champions League gone about, the teams that we've played in the Champions League, you mentioned the fact that the City had like Newport and all that, but French champions, Serbian champions, Portuguese champions, German champions, Spanish champions, fucking hell. You know what I mean? It's been ridiculous, the teams that we've played on this Champions League run, and yet somehow we're there.
Yeah.
But both sides will be sitting there thinking the same thing at the moment. There's a narrative as to why Liverpool win the Champions League. Tottenham had a point after 3 games in the group stages, didn't they? They'll be thinking their names wrote on the cup just as much as we think ours deserves to be.
Yeah, it's gonna be such a good game. You're right. I mean, you can add into that the Serie A runners up as well from last season. We played them. There has been some complaints from rivals. Liverpool lost all 3 away games in the group stage. We managed to squeeze ourselves through, and there were so many key moments that contributed to that.
How did we get on in the home games?
We won all 3.
Oh right, interesting. So it's still based on a league.
Yeah.
So you have to just come second or first.
So it is fine. Yeah.
Okay, like everybody else's group.
Yeah.
Okay, just second.
Just letting you all know. Yeah, but obviously you can think about the key moments in that. How long ago now does that Firmino winner feel against PSG?
That one.
That one. The
Alisson save and
Napoli save.
Monster rush Napoli.
I'm just not having a good day. The Alisson save against Napoli, and then the big error from Virgil van Dijk in the round of 16. That basically takes us through. It's been a season to remember, and I think you have to kind of. We have to remember to appreciate what a good run it's been in the Champions League, because obviously a lot of the focus has been on the league, and that has been more stressful than fun. And argue, the Champions League all the way through, I felt has been a bit more of like particularly the buy-in tie at the time, I was like, well, this is just a bit of a free hit. We can just go out and enjoy these games of football. And now when I look back on this Champions League run, it is something that we can look back on and feel like we've enjoyed rather than scrutinised every little, because it's about just ourselves. The whole of the Premier League season was about City as well. Where is City going to drop points? Oh, City away at Burnley this weekend. Oh, no, City are going to win that game, and all that. The Champions League was just about focusing on ourselves and enjoying Liverpool playing football, and we've got this opportunity to watch them play one more game of football this season and enjoy that, and hopefully enjoy that a lot more than we did in Kiev last season.
I enjoyed myself in Kiev, to be fair, until the game.
Really, I had a great day. After the
game.
Yeah.
Don't you? Yeah.
I enjoyed myself a lot.
Was Kiev or Barcelona?
Both. And Paris.
Oh yeah, Paris.
And Serbia.
Basically, anywhere you go with Aubrey.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, like, sounds.
Paris is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I remember bits of it. It was great. Nearly got run over on a really big roundabout.
You told me the story.
Paris?
Yeah, I had to full on peg it.
Yeah.
Screaming.
Did you?
Ah! As I ran across a 4-lane roundabout.
Oh, where the Arc de Triomphe is?
No, closer to the Eiffel Tower, I think.
Did you have like some cans in your hand and stuff?
No, I was running towards a bar, but I didn't notice. When I started walking across the roundabout, it looked fine.
Oh, bar!
And then I realised there was 4 lanes of traffic coming at me, and I literally screamed as I was running across it. Like, not like a gentlemanly jog where you slow down towards the end. I was like as fast as I can go, and nearly hit the building because I couldn't slow down on the little bit of pavement, and then turned around to see Aubrey doing exactly the same. And Paul, I think, was just taking a selfie of himself somewhere over miles away. He was absolutely fine and stuff like that. But listen, there's been a few sort of highlights, Bailey. One for you was you watched Paul's match reaction back from PSG this season.
Well, not of just pure for my own amusement. I was helping Si out for his collating all of his stuff for the story of the season, and a really interesting point we found from the PSG game is he said, I don't think the way we play is good enough to win the European Cup this season. And like, because
fuck does he know, lad?
Talking about this was after we'd lost 2-1 to PSG. I think we played the 4-2-3-1. I think we were like, that was the initial sort of birth of that form. And I think he was saying, to be fair, I think we've got the ability to push City, but I think this competition, like Ben's saying, is going to have to be on the back burner, and I don't think we can go as far. And like at the time, it was that for everybody.
I think everybody felt that,
yeah.
Gary Neville did.
Yeah.
Well, I will ask you a question right now. Did Liverpool win the league without the Champions League run?
I don't know.
Manchester City might not win it with their.
And now it's an unquantifiable, it's a ridiculous thing to say, but you'd have to go back and look at the way the fixtures fell, I suppose, and see where those extra fixtures came in and all that type of stuff. But it's not something that I've never heard anybody mention. But I still wouldn't swap it for a chance to win the European Cup. And knowing how good our form was in the Premier League, obviously losing the Premier League is a bit of a kicker, but being in with a chance to win both, I think what you're saying, Bailey, is absolutely right. Back then, I don't think any Liverpool fan really thought we could push both.
No.
And ultimately it's sliding doors, isn't it, whether you win the league or not, whether Vincent Kompany slots one in from 40 yards or not. It's ridiculous, like. But we are in the Champions League, Fano. We will be ramping up the preview content next week, and I cannot wait to get involved in that preview content. So let's talk some questions then. Jordan Dennis at 175. I'll come to you, Ross. Do you think we'll need to beat 97 points in order to win the league next season?
Possibly, yeah. I think it's far off. City got 100 last season, 98 this season. What's to say that, okay, well, there might be circumstances where they need to replace Vincent Kompany. Just go and spend a load more money. We always spoke about trying to compete with that. I think it's pretty difficult. I think if you take away the money side, and not that we're being bitter or salty anyway. You already mentioned Pep Guardiola's a very good manager. They have got very good players. To compete with that alone, I think it's very difficult. And to for Liverpool where they're at, 97 points is just a ridiculous amount of points. You don't think you can really ask for any more and be disappointed. You're just coming up against a very good side. But having said that, it all depends on what happens with City, because if they get a transfer ban, they get banned from UEFA. That says to many people.
Juventus come calling.
Yeah, if Juve come in for Pep, that might throw things out the window. But if they get a ban from UEFA, loads of people said, you just mentioned there, if we don't have Champions League football, they're just going to win every game in the Premier League, then, aren't they? you know, they might want to keep all those people happy by rotating the games of giving those people, what you said before, like a Mahrez or something, you can play some game time in the Champions League or whatever. But it's already to Watford. Like, they had Aguero, De Bruyne and Sane on the bench. But they're going to be doing that week in, week out in the Premier League. How is anyone...
They rested their three best players, or three of their best players in a cup final with no games to rest them for.
Say they get...
It's fucking nuts. It's fucking nuts. And they won 6-0.
But it's
crazy.
I said to Ben
it's
yesterday,
depressing, that's what it is.
all this stuff that's come out with Man
Clever
City.
squad management, by the way.
Do you think it'd be more in the spotlight had Liverpool not pushed Man City so far? To say it was last season and Liverpool were we could finish second, but we were 20 points behind this season, and the gap was still, you know, astronomically huge. You know, does that further highlight the difference? So Liverpool kind of done City a favour in that sense of going, well, Liverpool are only a point behind, so things aren't that bad, and then they played Watford, and then you go, that's where you can see the gap, because no one can compete with that on a weekly basis. They're just going to do that every week.
I've talked about it before. For me, it's the gap that echoes down the Premier League. So yeah, you get the odd shock where you know somebody like Palace can go and win at City, but in general, for me, if you look at the top six, the gap between the top six and the rest of the league, it's almost never been bigger in terms of the fact that the way Man City have spent, Liverpool and Man United and Chelsea and not Tottenham, but you know they've all tried to catch up, and as a result, you know, Man United, the gap between Man United and Wolves was I think 12 points, and you know,
was it that many?
I think it was. Wow. Yeah, it might have been a few.
It was like 7.
Oh,
wow.
Really? So, but then Man United were quite a way off top 4, and so. But I just feel like the league in general is becoming less. I think Huddersfield with like 11 points. You know, they're going and they're getting battered pretty much every week, unless they play Wolves, because they're double over Wolves this season, which I found quite funny. But I think that is the issue with, and as you say, you raise a very good point there, Ross, that I haven't considered really. Maybe if Liverpool had finished 10-15 points behind City, despite how much we spent in the summer, fairly, you know, it may have been talked about more. I think people have looked a very narrow sight at the title race, thinking, well, no, it is quite. It's not. It's City can roll up. The reason City haven't been as good to watch this season than last season for me is because they can just roll up, score early, and that's that. Then it's like the robots following a process every time, and that makes it. It's not that it's not entertaining, but it's systematic, it's predictable, and I don't want the Premier League to become predictable. I want.
But isn't that what FFP's done?
In what sense?
Well, the rich keep getting richer than the poorest.
But
yeah, all FFP is from the start up. The big 6 clubs wanted to keep rich and richer than the rest, and that's what FFP does.
We
because now no side like Burnley can ever become a sustained superpower without breaking the rules. Yeah. And now the focus for Manchester City, and cleverer people than me have said this, and I think Rob Gutman was the first person that I read say it on Twitter, is they want the doors shut behind them. Of course they want the rules to be absolutely fucking adhered to now, because why do they want another club to be able to flaunt the rules and break into this top 6?
They've already done it.
They've already done it. It's too fucking late now. They've got the money. They're now earning the money.
What's the solution? Is it you can spend a certain percentage of your income? How do you fix that? You can't, because if you take the rules away, then
another ticket.
The same rules apply.
Well, now if you take the rules away, and someone decided to come in big and spend money on Newcastle, for example, a big club with big heritage and a big fan base, one club City, fans all around the world from the 90s and stuff like that, or Everton as a historically big club, you can still catch them.
Yeah.
But then it's well, who's richer?
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's what it is now.
My answer to the question, you know, we will probably have to beat 97 points, and City will probably beat 98 points, because if all things stay the same. But I did a video about this myself, and we might not catch them next season, but in 5 years we will, because if you can't physically do battle with FFP. You can't. You've got to accept the fact that Manchester City are going to have bottomless pockets for the foreseeable future. That's the way the world is now. But you can foresee that if they get a transfer ban, if they get a European ban, Pep's not going to stay. And you lose the best manager in the world, and you have an adjustment period that comes in after that. Their spines are all over 30 years old. You know, the company's already gone. They're going to have to replace Fernandinho, Aguero, David Silva. You can't just have players that you pump money into. That's what Manchester United are doing. You can't just throw money at a team and hope it sticks. You've got to have a cohesive manager and a spine that is experienced. Manchester City will have to replace all of these guys who are so sort of experienced in winning things, that will go. Pep Guardiola will go, and that's when the deficit will be changed. When if we've still got Klopp and we're 3 years into our cycle with this team, it will do that, and City will eventually go back to that again. But money-wise, that's not how you beat City. You just have to be patient and wait them out.
Maybe, and that's an unfortunate thing. But I think Liverpool will have to beat 97 points, and I think Liverpool will strive to beat 97 points. I think it's obvious that you strive to beat that. I think you'd strive for over 100. You strive to win every single game that you're playing in. Ultimately, my big thing is that I think Pep Guardiola's side have been playing this way for 3 years now.
Yep.
This is the first year Liverpool have been playing like this. You know, we were very much a gegenpressing side last season. We're not this season.
Yep.
We will make massive strides forward in a possession-based side next season, regardless of signings. Our defence will get a year better because they'll have played more than a year together. Our midfield will get better. Our strikers, for playing for the third year together, will get better. And I think that Liverpool can make massive strides because we're developing our players in the same way that City have got better over the last couple of years because they're playing the same style of football. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question. At Cam_B311, are there any unwritten rules of the Redmen office? I'm not sure.
Right, I've got one here that I hope Tom watches this because he's done my head in with this so many times. When you play pool upstairs, we have a pool table upstairs in the office. You play 3 games. So your first game, your second game. If you win both the first 2, that's it.
You play a best of 3.
You play a best of 3. What you don't do, Tom, is walk away after a second game if you're losing. And he's done this multiple occasions now.
And you beat him yesterday, didn't you?
He threw his cue on the table because he missed the shot.
I beat him twice last week because he kept potting the black.
He's fell off big time, and I think he doesn't like it. And like I say, and it's a rule that I have to remind of him countless times, and he knows it winds me up, and this is why he does it. So that is a rule that needs to be worked on and stuck to better in the office.
Okay, I think one of the unwritten rules of the office is, and this is a genuine unwritten rule, we don't fart when there's girls in. I think that is a genuine thing. I don't think anybody does.
No, it's true.
Do you go for shits when the girls are in?
Absolutely. If I need a shit.
Tom does not.
Yeah, that's fine. No, Tom doesn't.
No.
Oh, bless him.
I mean, really?
No, literally, the second the girl leaves, give him 2 seconds, it'll be straight into the bog.
It's this right side.
Oh yeah.
Any unwritten rules from you, Ross?
I've got one. Sorry, Ross.
Go on.
Go on.
I don't think so. I think there's ones when you, or obviously with recording shows, there's certain things that you don't say or do.
I mean, you can edit everything out, Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
see that one.
Yeah.
Let's just go straight to Ben.
I think
We're just going to get loads of people asking what they are.
Yes, exactly. I think we all have a chair. We're trying not to sit in each other's chair. I mean, Tom has his chair size. I wouldn't dream of sitting in Ross's chair. You know what I mean? It's Ross's chair.
You did when it was off.
Yeah, I moved back because I was like, look at me. I mean, but today, I went sat in your office for a bit because I needed to do an edit, but I wouldn't if you were in, I'd offer you a chair. You know what I mean? There's a chair. I have my chair. Sometimes Lauren comes in and she's sat in my chair. And I'm like,
phew.
I like sitting there. That's my chair.
I think the other unwritten rule of the office is nobody really wants to touch Tom's keyboard, or in fact his Mac in general.
He's
it's
walked within an
fucking
inch.
disgusting. I've got no idea. I mean, I know exactly how he gets it that dirty. I've never seen a keyboard so dirty in my life. Ridiculous.
I've not looked.
Oh my god, it's disgusting. He has to have a deep clean on it every week. I don't know what it's disgusting. Isn't it disgusting, Si?
Wait, the one that I've been using all day.
Yeah. No wonder you're ill.
Oh, I just feel grotty now.
You're either ill or pregnant.
There you go. At Des_gripes. Is the after party in Madrid at Sergio Ramos's house?
It's an idea. I'll see if I can make some calls. I mean, I'm flying straight home, so I won't be going.
Des, do you know where he lives? Because you can't put this together and not actually sort of know where he lives.
It'd probably just be outside his house.
Yeah.
I'd guess.
Yeah.
Just four scousers
like them fireworks we set off outside the Hilton.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
When you say we,
I say we.
Were you involved in this?
A nameless man, a nameless Liverpool fan. We, the collective we.
Okay, sorry. I just didn't want you to get in trouble.
No.
That was all.
They have to turn up as just a flash mob. Everyone's just got Salah masks on, just stand there for an hour in silence, just looking at him.
Is that a
Why
party?
silence?
Is that your
Well,
definition of a party?
Prosthetic shoulders.
He won't know we're there if we're silent.
No, because someone will like ding dong ditch his house.
Oh,
And he'll
right,
come out
okay.
and he'll be on the lot, and there'll be like 2,000 people there looking like Salah, and he'll just be like,
What does ding dong ditch his house mean?
like cherry knock.
What's that mean?
Knock and run, that's what he's
All
trying
right,
to
knock
say.
and run, right.
Knock and run.
Because
what it's
I'm
called,
not from
Phil.
Liverpool.
Cherry drop, did you say?
Cherry knock.
Cherry knock.
Why cherry knock?
I don't know. I never actually explored the meaning of the word. It's just the way that it was.
It's dumb. It's
Knock
knock
a
and
door
run.
dash.
Knock
I've
and door
heard that,
dash.
like, it's
Knock
a bit
and run.
weird. Knock
Knock
and
and
run.
run. Yeah,
Let us know in the comments. What is it?
Knock and run.
it's knock and run. But they don't bother
definitely
commenting.
not.
It's
Yeah,
knock
it's
and
definitely
run.
not.
It's knock and run, like.
It's not.
I mean, it is. Absolutely is.
I'm
What was the first one you said?
I'll
What
put
was the
this
first one you
straight
said?
in. I don't
Father,
remember.
father,
About
what's play
dashing.
cherry dash?
Ditch and knock and dash. Ditch.
Dick, dive and dodge.
Is that what it was?
This sounds like a
dodge
fucking
and dive.
late Friday night technique. Dip, dive and fucking dodger. Jesus Christ. So there you go. That's how you end the Redmen TV podcast without Paul Machin. That was the calm before the storm. This is the Redmen TV. Thank you very much for listening. Like the video, subscribe to the Redmen TV on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify, whatever. Leave a 5-star rating. Get in touch at the Redmen TV on Twitter. We will be back, of course, with the bonus Q&A, and we've got some absolutely belter questions lined up, which I will work out now. What historical time period would you most want to go back in and see with your own eyes? If you had to pick one, would you rather have toothpaste come out of your knob or your ass? I mean, these are the type of things that we will
need
discuss.
answering, yeah.
And if you want to pay for this content, you can do. It's only £5 a month to find out if I want toothpaste coming out of my knob or my ass. So get involved at theredmentv.com. See you next time. Ta-ra.